This car has facial recognition technology, digital cameras on the side of it, a fingerprint scanner to start it, and a lot more tech than that. So stay tuned, I'm going to tell you all about it in this review. G'day, my name's Matt. This channel is called The Right Car. This here is the Genesis GV60. It is packed with technology, has heaps of power, and it's actually really smart. It could be one of the best EVs on the market right now, but stay tuned and I'll tell you some of the best alternatives to it in this test as well. If you haven't already, please do like and subscribe. Let's get to it. The Genesis GV60 range has two different grades available. Both of them are all-wheel drive, but there are differences when it comes to the power and torque outputs for the two different models, although both have the same size battery pack. I'll tell you more about that shortly. But first, let's cover off what you get in the entry-level version. Now, it is absolutely loaded with technology. Just like this top spec model, it does have heaps of standard gear, including things like over-the-air updates. There's a smartphone app so you can connect to the car. There's also connected services in the car as well. Plus, you get surround view camera system. You also get these amazing, but also not lovable, digital side mirrors. There's facial recognition technology to unlock the car, fingerprint tech as well to start the car. So it does have a bunch of really interesting technology on offer in this vehicle. Plus, obviously, you get the usual sort of stuff you would expect: big touchscreen media system, digital instrumentation, and also leather interior trim, which does lift the cabin and make it just feel very special for the money. And on that base model, you also get 20-inch alloy wheels, the same sort of LED lighting that you find on the top grade version as well. So it does look the part on the outside, and it really does feel it on the inside too. And this version here is the GV60 Performance. It does add quite a bit of money to the price tag, but you do get a whole lot more performance for your money, as you would expect. And you do get a few different extras included, including 21-inch wheels and a camera that reads the road and adapts the suspension based on what the camera can see, which is very cool technology. And then there's also things like a boost mode for the electric motors, which can give you maximum power for 10 seconds. And that's a lot of power, trust me. It means that this car can get from 0 to 100 in 4 seconds. Doesn't look like it should be able to do that. Doesn't look that fast, but it is. Wow, if you have this kind of money to buy an electric car, well, you've got heaps and heaps of options available to you. I'm going to tell you a few that I really rate. The first one is the Kia EV6. Now, specifically, I'm talking about the GT version, which is the one I did the review of. Hit the link up there and you'll be able to check it out, or the link in the description. Now, I think that's a really compelling, fast, family-friendly and functional electric hatchback style SUV thing. Look, it's one of those things that blends all different types of genres, but it does it really well. And it's a really good car. I like it a lot. I think it's great to drive, has an interesting interior, and looks fantastic as well. Shares a fair bit with this car under the skin too. And if you're looking for something that's a bit more luxurious, let's say, well, how about the BMW iX3? There's now two different grades available in that range, starting from a reasonable price point, well under $100,000, which this car doesn't start at. So it might be a really good choice for you if you're after something that's a bit more practical, a bit larger, but also still very conventional looking on the outside. That's one of the appeals of the iX3 in my mind. It's conventional inside and out, but it just happens to have a high-tech futuristic powertrain. So yeah, it could be a really good choice for you. And if you're after something that is, well, a compact crossover luxury model, well, maybe check out the Volvo C40 Coupe electric SUV or the XC40 electric SUV. Both of them now available in rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. And if you choose the XC40, there's also some petrol versions still available for now, but they're going to be axed soon. So it's going full electric for Volvo by 2025. So if you want a petrol Volvo, now's the time. But if you're looking at this, you're probably looking at an electric Volvo anyway. So it could be a really good option for you too. This might be the smallest Genesis you can get in Australia, but it's not tiny. It's pretty chunky, pretty wide, and it's also actually not that small in general terms. So it's 4.5 meters or just over. It's got a very long wheelbase to fit all the battery stuff underneath. And look, for a family, it's probably going to be okay. Let me show you the boot and I'll explain why. Okay, you'd expect it to have an electric boot. It does. and it's pretty quick, which is good to see. Now, things I like about this boot space is that it is pram friendly. You will fit a pram and some luggage either side of it as well. Or if you don't have kids that are requiring a pram, it's definitely going to be big enough for a weekend away for a family of 4. Just keep in mind though that you don't get a spare tire like most other EVs. There is no spare, so there's a storage section underneath the boot floor, but it's mainly just for extra cables or odds and ends, whatever you might need to store under there. It's also got this little handy side section which you can open independently. There's a little parcel cover as well if you need it, and also you will find there's a couple of tie down points in here, 12-volt outlet as well, so it does have a fair few handy features. It's not the biggest boot, but I think it's big enough for most people's needs. The interior of the GV60 is high-tech, luxurious, and very sumptuous with the finishes that are applied here. This feels like the money that is being asked. Let me tell you, there are some other cars out there in, well, $120,000 land that don't feel anywhere near as nice as this car. Look, it isn't going to be to all tastes because there are some elements of it which, well, some people just won't like. The fact that there's so much roundness to the cabin, like there's round elements everywhere, or rounded, I should say. And, you know, the modern trend is very much for angular, sharp edge style lines on the inside. But look, this car has a lot of roundness inside. You might think it's a little bit too cutesy, but I think that it does have a nice point of difference as a result of the design choices that have been made in this cabin. It's also very, very, very functional when it comes to the usability of the space. So let me show you some of the great storage here. Right, you've got this pull-out little drawer here for your glove box compartment, I guess you'd say. There's also a little thing down here for storing some extra whatevers you might fit in there. There's a storage cubby down there as well. Nice flat floor down below, but sadly, unlike some other EVs, there's no big storage tray underneath, but you do still get a storage caddy up here with a couple of cup holders. There's a wireless phone charger here, which I really love the fact that you can just plonk your phone in there and it'll charge. It's out of sight and out of mind for the most part. And then you've got a little storage section here as well. You've got bottle holders in the doors too. And there's also heaps and heaps of usability to the controls in this cabin. So the fact that you've got a section of buttons here, so that's for your seat heating and cooling, both in this spec, and both specs in fact. You've also got a heated steering wheel button there as well. And there's also this little party trick, so it turns into the gear selector, which is kind of neat. Maybe a little silly, but might fall into the cutesy category for you, but I do like it. What I don't like is the fact that you've also got a rotary control dial in front of that. So it's easy to accidentally grab one instead of the other when you're driving if you're not concentrating. But thankfully, there's also a section of buttons down here for your media controls, or you can just use the touchscreen. So there's multiple ways to interact with the media screen, and I like the fact that you still get some controls down here for your ventilation, your air conditioning, heating, that sort of stuff. That's all down here. There's a little screen that you can use the toggle buttons as well, so it is very handy and very easy to get your head around. And like I mentioned, this touchscreen media system, it's very simple as well. I like the fact that you get used to the menus within about an hour of spending some time in this car, though there are lots and lots and lots of menus. I mean, that's one of the things with modern EVs. They try and do everything for everyone, and maybe there's a bit too much going on in the screen, in my opinion. But most of the time I've just had Apple CarPlay connected anyway, so I'm maybe a little bit more simple than some people. But there's also a sat-nav system as well if you want to use that, and you've also got an augmented reality style system in front of the driver on the digital screen here. So if you put in somewhere in the map, it'll show you on the screen here the directions that you should be taking in real time using a camera, which is really, really cool technology. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the technology that might not appeal to some people are the digital mirrors. So this is the screen where it is your mirror, essentially. So the camera points back and you can adjust that screen based on where you think it should be. Well, you're adjusting the view on the screen, I should say. But look, I don't love those mirrors, but you might think they're fantastic. I just want to call out though that there are some really interesting choices when it comes to the trim in here. Look, there's this like reflective tape stuff here on the door, which kind of reminds me of what you see on like joggers, like not expensive joggers. And maybe that's just me, but I think it's an interesting choice at least. And also this, it's like a etched metal style finish that's on here. It's over the dashboard as well. To me, it reminds me of a blunt cheese grater, but hey, you tell me what you think in the comments section below. Seats are really good, super duper comfortable, lots of adjustability, and you can even adjust this one using these little side toggle buttons as well. If you need to make more space for whoever's behind or whatever it may be, it just makes for a nice option for you to have if you want that. Just stop. You can also lay these seats back a fair way for when you're charging up, which is good, and they're really comfy, as I mentioned. So let's see if the back seat's comfy too. So this might be the point where this car doesn't make sense for you, because if you have really big rear seat occupants, look, I'm not really big, I'm 182 centimeters or 6 foot, a bit bigger than average. I've got a bit bigger feet than average too, size 12s, and they are pretty tight under the seat in front of me. This is set for my driving position, so it's not necessarily the most comfortable backseat experience. As you can see, my knees are quite high up because I just don't have enough room to stretch out. So if you have tall teens, maybe this won't be perfect for you. But if you do have youngsters, well, they'll be happy because there's ISOFIX points in the window seats, 3 top tethers as well. As you can see, you can also recline this side of the seat or the bigger portion of the seat as well if you want to make it just a little bit more spacious or comfortable. These seats, just like the front, they're pretty comfy. It's a bit flat in the middle, but it's not that big of a deal. What I do like though is that you've got a couple of USB-C ports here. There's a storage caddy underneath there. You've also got a little flip down armrest with some cup holders here too. There's cup holders on the doors too. And another thing that I really like are the pillar mounted air vents. So for me, I use this to run around with my daughter in the back seat, in her child seat in here, and those vents worked so much better on really warm days than the lower mounted vents that you typically find in most cars. Some cars don't even have rear seat air vents still. So look, the ventilation situation is pretty good. There's also obviously this panoramic roof as well, so you get a pretty good view out. But I will say that littler kids might find that it is a little bit confined in the back because of the way that these doors kick up at the back. You don't get the greatest view out. And also, I'll just mention that you do get these little side shades, which are very handy. If you have kids or even just sun-sensitive adults in the back seat, that's going to be a handy thing. Oh, I should also mention a couple of storage caddies on the back of the seat here, but yeah, look, it's not the most usable back seat space, but it's going to be usable for most people, I would say. As I mentioned, there are 2 different versions of the GV60 available. Even the entry-level version gets more than 200 kilowatts and more than 600 Newton meters of torque, which is going to be easily enough for most people's needs. Obviously, if you do want to buy the performance version, then good for you, because you get, well, even more power and torque. As you'll see on your screen, there's heaps of grunt available. So it gets twin 180 kilowatt motors, front and rear. The entry-level version also gets a front and rear motor, and they both have a single speed transmission as standard as well. One thing I really do like about the GV60 is that there is a little frunk section underneath here, so you can store your cables so they're out of the way. Gives you a little bit more boot space. Handy. The EV driving range for these 2 different versions of the GV60 is pretty close, only 4 kilometers difference in it. And that's pretty good, I reckon. That's based on the WLTP standard. So you might see different in real world driving, but hey, what I've seen is this is a pretty efficient all-wheel drive performance style SUV. I'll tell you more about that shortly. Now let's talk about battery stuff. So you've got a 77.4 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack under the body of the car. Here is where you charge. It's got an AC port up the top at up to 10 kilowatts charging speed. Now you'll need 3-phase power at home if you want to do a 10 kilowatt charge, but there is a free charger on offer if you buy one of these cars from Genesis, or you can get a 5-year ChargeFox membership if you're more likely to be spending time charging fast if you can find one that actually works. Now, speaking of charging fast, you've got DC power point down there as well. Obviously this is a type 2 combination plug, and that means that you can get up to 350 kilowatt charging speed, according to Genesis. Now, let me know in the comments if you own a Genesis electric car or a Kia or a Hyundai. If you've ever seen 350 kilowatts going in, I'll be really surprised because it usually seems to top out around 250, 260, something around there. So look, the 800 volt architecture is very clever and it should be able to charge you from 10 to 80% in around 18 minutes if you can find a really fast charger that's working. But hey, let me know what you think in the comment section below, whether the fast charging thing is a bit of a furphy or not. Oh, I also like that it shows you the charge level indicator here. So when it's charging up, it lights up in increments and you press this button to close the door. Yeah. Oh, I'll also just mention you can do vehicle to load charging with this car. So that means that if you have a blackout and your car's battery is full, you can run your house or things in your house from the car. Neat. Lots of electric cars drive very similarly to one another, and the GV60 does drive, well, similarly to other electric cars, but it does have some differences in terms of its road manners and traits. So firstly, the camera-based ride system. So it uses a camera in the windscreen up here to read the road ahead and adjust the suspension to what it thinks is going to happen in terms of lumps and bumps in the road surface. And honestly, it's pretty good. I've driven the other version of this car, the previous version, and it was very, well, firm feeling, whereas this feels just a little bit more comfortable and composed over, well, unpleasant sections of road. There's plenty of those in the area that I live in the lower Blue Mountains. So yeah, these roads usually feel a little bit less good than they are feeling right now in this car. You can't hide the fact that it is a pretty heavy vehicle though, so it does still have quite a bit of weight shift in corners. So you will feel the car sort of moving a little bit underneath you. If you aren't used to that, if you've never driven a big heavy EV like this, well, not that big, but heavy EV like this, then you might find it just a little bit disconcerting at first, but you do get used to it pretty quickly, let me tell you. And also I will say that this car does have, well, better than average handling. Because it's the performance model and it gets the 21-inch wheels with those performance focused tires, they're Michelin Sport EV tires, and they are very good. It does really feel like it has plenty of grip on the road surface below. So one of the party tricks of this grade of the GV60 is the boost button. So you hit boost. Oh dear. Yeah, that is license loss territory if you aren't watching what you are doing, because that is very, very, very quick. Very quick. Look, a lot of EVs are very quick, but this has super quick throttle response in that boost mode. And look, you can adjust into other driving modes if you wish. There's another button on the steering wheel for that. So you can go between sport, eco, comfort, and look, there's a few different things that change when you play with those modes. The steering response, there's also the acceleration, and also the seat bolstering. So it'll hug you a little bit tighter when you put it in sport mode, which I like. The steering is also really good. It feels very confidence inspiring. You do feel like you have some kind of feel and interaction with the road surface, which is good. And of course there is an active lane keeping assist feature. It's as simple as hitting and holding a button on the steering wheel to turn it off, which I've done every single time. Although if you are the sort of person who wants to use that tech on the freeway in particular, where it can basically semi-steer for you, then it is, well, it's okay. Just don't rely on it, is my advice. You can adjust the amount of regen braking by using the paddle shifters. So I've got it on I-pedal, or single pedal driving mode right now. So I take my foot off the accelerator. Even going down a hill, it will come to a complete stop, which is kind of cool to see. And also another thing you can make it do by using the paddles is come to a full stop by just holding the left paddle down. So I'll just do that now around this corner onto this flat bit, and you just hold the left paddle down and it will come to a complete stop, which is kind of interesting. And if you don't want to use single pedal driving mode, there's also a few different other modes for the regen brakes, which are a little bit more lenient and don't pull up quite as fast. So yep, suffice to say, I reckon this is a very good luxury sporty SUV style thing, and I see why people would want one. When it comes to efficiency, there's two different figures for the GV60 range. You'll see both of them on your screen now. As you can see, there's not very much in it between the non-performance and the performance model, at least in terms of the WLTP claimed efficiency that you should be able to achieve. And if you're wondering what I've seen over a little bit more than a week of testing this car, you'll see the figure on your screen now. That was across a mix of different driving scenarios: urban, highway, freeway, the daycare drop-off, that sort of stuff. So that might be exactly the sort of driving you'll do. Hey, I did a few little quick ones here and there too. It's a fun car. The Genesis GV60 achieved the maximum 5-star ANCAP safety rating in 2022, so it comes loaded with technology and equipment as you would expect. There's pedestrian, cyclist and junction detection as part of the autonomous emergency braking system. Plus there's also a rear AEB system. You've got surround view camera, front and rear parking sensors, digital side mirrors, as I've mentioned, and you've also got things like lane keeping assistance, blind spot monitoring, and there's a blind spot view camera system, so it'll show up on the driver info screen. There's also rear cross traffic alert, safe exit assist, which will stop you from opening your door into the path of oncoming traffic. And there's other really good stuff too. There's probably too much to list here, but for this updated version, which was launched late in 2023 in Australia, it has also received rear side airbags as part of the package. So it's got dual front, front side, full length curtain, rear side, front center. It's an airbag Festivus in there, 10 airbags. Sweet deal alert. Genesis offers the best ownership program on the market in Australia right now. It's a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty for private buyers, a little bit different if you're a commercial customer, and 8 years, 160,000 Ks of battery warranty as well. There's 5 years of free servicing included as well for this car. Now, the service intervals are 12 months and 15,000 Ks, which is a little bit more regular than some other EVs, but Genesis will collect and return your car to you if you wish, or you can get a free loan car if you want to drive your own vehicle in for maintenance. So yeah, that's pretty nice to see. And there's also 5 years of roadside assist included for free, no matter where you get it serviced, and 10 years of free roadside assist if you do service your car with Genesis. Add to that the fact that they are throwing in a 5-year ChargeFox membership for fast charging, if you can find one that works, or a free home charger as well as a choice. Look, it really can't be beaten in this segment, or in any segment. Yep, I've got to say, I'm pretty convinced by the Genesis GV60. If you're after something that isn't like anything else, is packed with technology, and well, isn't the most affordable EV, but does offer quite a lot of value for money, then it could be a really good choice for you. I don't really see anything that's desperately wrong with this car, apart from maybe the price. But tell me what you think. Is it worth the kind of money that they're asking? Or would you choose something cheaper? I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't already, please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.